Dr. Scott Connolly of Metrics. The certificate being given by Brad Kopchenko of California Bodywear. The bronze Mr. Olympia medal being given by Jeff Bielik of Valio. And the bronze Sandow medal being given by Jeff Rhodes of Universal Supplements. These awards will be presented to competitor number 8, Kevin Levroni.
The gasps and boos of the audience of the 1994 Olympia led me to the creation of this video. Kevin Levroni is known today as one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. Despite never having won a Mr. Olympia, he placed second place at the prestigious competition 4 times, the most of any competitor other than the great Jay Cutler. Because of this, Levroni is often called the uncrowned king of the Mr. Olympia by many bodybuilding fans. However, many more diehard fans will tell you that despite all of the hype around his name, Levroni never actually deserved to win a Mr. Olympia. In all 4 years that he placed second place, 1992, 1995, 2000, and 2002, he never was the best man on stage. There is, however, one year that I believe is still overlooked. This is the 1994 Mr. Olympia. Approaching the Mr. Olympia, a few strong competitors stood out from amongst the rest. The most obvious favorite to take the title was, of course, the reigning 2-time Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates. Just 1 year prior, Dorian Yates shocked the world with his 1993 Mr. Olympia victory. He brought a level of size and conditioning that had never before been seen on the Mr. Olympia stage and took home a decisive victory. To this day, many, including myself, consider 1993 to be Dorian's best package ever. However, Yates' prep for the 1994 Olympia was anything but easy. In March, he had torn a ligament in his left shoulder joint. In April, Yates tore the vastus muscle in his left quadricep. Then, in July 12th, less than 9 weeks before the Mr. Olympia, Yates had the worst injury of them all, a massive tear that would affect his physique for the rest of his career. While performing bent over rows with an underhand grip, Yates suffered a great biceps tear in his right arm. Despite all of these injuries, Yates commendably persevered and would not drop out of the competition. This left the door open for someone else to come in and knock the reigning champion off his throne. The second favorite would have to be the legendary Sultan of Symmetry, Flex Wheeler. Flex made a shocking Olympia debut the previous year in 1993, where he placed second to Dorian Yates. Flex brought a level of bubbliness and aesthetics that Yates could only dream of, while Yates beat him from the back and brought an unprecedented level of condition. If anyone could dethrone the champ, it would be Flex Wheeler. Unfortunately, Flex would never get the chance. On June 9th of 1994, Flex was part of a huge car accident. He broke 2 vertebrae and a collarbone, and would sadly be sidelined from the competition. In my opinion, the third favorite to win this show would have been the great Shawn Ray, who, despite not being my favorite bodybuilder, had in my eyes the most perfect physique to ever grace the Mr. Olympia stage. Ray was someone who always brought a consistent package to the stage. Despite being dwarfed by larger competitors, Ray brought an amazing level of polish, aesthetics, and flawless posing to the stage. After a mediocre debut placing of 13th in 1988, Shawn went on to place 3rd in 1990, 5th in 1991, 4th in 1992, and 3rd in 1993. Sean was a clear top-running contender who was eager to win. The last top contender was somewhat of a dark horse for this competition. Kevin Levrone, like Flex Wheeler, had an outstanding Olympia debut in 1992, placing second behind Dorian Yates. However, Levrone would suffer an injury in preparation for the 1993 Olympia that would potentially retire him for good. Levrone suffered a severe pec tear in February 1993 while bench pressing 600 pounds, which required 2 surgeries and led to a significant infection that prolonged his recovery. The injury was so severe that many, including Levrone himself, believed his professional bodybuilding career may have been over. Miraculously, Levrone ended up recovering enough to still prep for the 93 Olympia, managing to place 5th in the world. For Levrone, the 1994 Olympia was a chance to prove to the world that he was still a top threat, that despite his setback, he could still win the Mr. Olympia. Although many today say that Sean Ray should have won the 94 Olympia, the show really ended up being a 3-horse race, with Kevin Levrone and of course the reigning champ, Dorian Yates, all in the mix. As always, Sean brought a great package to the stage this year. His conditioning and lines were spectacular as ever. Levrone brought a great package this year as well. People often talk about 1995 as one of his best packages ever, but in all honesty, his 94 package was nearly identical. Yates, however, didn't come in with the dominating fashion like he did the previous year. Dorian Yates experienced bloating on the day of the competition, which he described as feeling sick and bloated upon waking up. His bicep tear was also on clear display. His competitors could smell blood in the water. The champ was weak, and his throne was for the taking. Unfortunately, we don't have a time machine to go back and watch the competition live for ourselves, so all we could do is look back at the footage and pictures and judge from those. Let's take a look back at the competition. For the purposes of our comparison, we're just going to be looking at the top 3 since they were really the only ones in running to win the competition. Let's start first with the front double biceps. This pose is a really easy one to judge for this competition. Dorian Yates was uncharacteristically bloated during this competition, and his left bicep was torn, which honestly made his front double biceps really poor for this competition. Despite Kevin Levrone having huge arms, the way that he's posing is really just not that great. He's holding his arms up way too high, and compared to Sean Ray, he just doesn't have those levels of aesthetics. Sean Ray's deep vacuum and small waist, along with his great biceps, definitely give him the edge for this pose. Sean Ray takes a decisive victory in the front double biceps, with Kevin Levrone getting a mediocre second place. Luckily for him, Dorian Yates is so far behind in this shot that there's a large gap between the two of them and him. Next, let's take a look at the front lat spread pose. Unfortunately, this picture with Dorian Yates standing at an awkward angle and Sean Ray is the only image that I could find. Luckily, there is a little bit of footage that I was able to salvage. Let's take a look at that instead. This short clip is unfortunately all I was able to find. Luckily, taking screenshots, I can stitch side by side the 3 competitors. Unfortunately, the legs will be cut out. Despite not having the legs, it's obvious that Dorian Yates is going to take this pose. His lats are just way too prominent in this pose. They don't call people's front lat spreads Dorian-esque for nothing. The real competition is between Sean Ray and Kevin Levrone. Here, I do have to give the edge to Kevin Levrone. His arms are just massively outdoing Sean Ray's, and his wide frame and imposing structure gives him the edge here. Between him and Yates, he's just a little bit behind. His lats are just way too small in this pose compared to Dorian Yates, but he does make up for it somewhat with his huge shoulders and arms. Unfortunately for competitors with large arms, it ends up making it cover their lats for them. He is still behind Dorian in this pose, and Sean Ray is a distant third. Next, let's move on to the side chest pose. Unfortunately for us, in the photo that we have, although it does depict all three competitors, it appears that Kevin Levrone is posing for a judge that must be on the right of the camera. This gives him a slight disadvantage compared to Dorian Yates and Sean Ray. Despite this disadvantage, it's obvious that Kevin Levrone is smoking the other two competitors in this shot. His chest is amazing, and his tricep sweep on his front arm is just out of this world. Even the side of his leg appears to be bigger than Dorian's in this pose, and Kevin Levrone is notorious for having some small legs. Luckily, we can take a freeze frame from his posing routine from the same competition. Over here, when we see him front on, it's obvious that he's dominating this pose. Not only is his chest huge, we could see his amazing obliques and abs as well in this shot. His arms and shoulders just cap it off, along with his amazing traps. Between Sean Ray and Dorian Yates, however, it's a bit of a tricky situation. Both competitors are pretty similar in this pose, I would say, in terms of how strong they are. Dorian Yates has always had a kind of weak chest, and his arms have always been a weak point for him as well. Sean Ray outdoes him in the arm, and he also outdoes him in the glute ham tie-in and the side leg. However, the pec itself, the front pec for Sean, is pretty small. His pecs have always looked pretty small in the side chest pose. I'd say that this pose is pretty much a 50-50. So you could say that Kevin Levrone is dominating while Sean Ray and Dorian Yates fall behind. Now, it's time for the back double biceps. In this shot, Dorian Yates is kind of the front runner. His back has always been phenomenal. His hamstrings look great in the shot, and even you could see some semblance of some glute striations in him this year. His lower back also stands out compared to other competitors. Sean Ray is someone who also has a pretty strong back double bicep. He has deeply striated glutes and great hamstrings. His condition almost looks as good as Dorian's in this pose, which is kind of shocking to say. While Dorian has the conditioning edge on the top half, Sean Ray seems to have it in the bottom half, with his glutes and hamstrings. Kevin Levrone is no slouch here either. He's pretty decently well conditioned. He does have some striated glutes and some etched hamstrings as well. In terms of the leg department, I would say that Dorian Yates is actually last here. In terms of the back itself, Kevin actually seems to have the biggest back here, which is kind of crazy to say. Whether you say he's stepping the line or whatever, his back is the biggest. His shoulders are also monstrous in this shot. He has great upper traps as well, which Dorian doesn't seem to have. Dorian has him on the lower traps though. Well, the more I look at it, Dorian actually doesn't seem to have a smaller back than Kevin. Kevin does seem to have more bubbliness, kind of like Phil Heath, but maybe just a bit smaller than Dorian's. Dorian definitely beats him on the conditioning edge though. Unfortunately for Dorian, his arms are just like way smaller than Kevin's. And unfortunately for Kevin, he doesn't seem to be posing properly. Dorian also has the edge in the calf department. Sean and Dorian are both posing much better than Kevin is. Overall, I would say that this is a really close pose between the three guys. Dorian would still be my number one, with Sean Ray in second and Kevin close behind, but it's honestly not as much of a blowout as you might expect. I would say that Kevin Levrone was winning more in the side chest than Dorian Yates is in the back double biceps. Next, let's take a look at the back lat spread pose. One thing that I noticed about the footage versus the pictures is that Sean Ray is actually surprisingly uncharacteristically asymmetric in this pose. If we look at the pictures, we don't get an idea for that. But when looking at the footage, we can clearly see that his left lat is not opening up all the way like his right is. Other than that, in the photos, we get an idea for who's the best in the shot. And obviously, to no one's surprise, it's Dorian Yates. Although Kevin is severely out-angling him here, Dorian is still by far the best. One knock at him this year compared to other years, though, is that his bottom half, namely his glutes and hamstrings, are actually quite soft compared to Kevin and Sean. Sean is just way too small in this shot, way smaller than both Kevin and Dorian. Kevin is actually quite large in this shot, but even then, he's dwarfed compared to Dorian Yates. I don't think that he's losing in this shot as badly as he was winning in the side chest though. Next up, let's take a look at the side tricep pose. In this pose, as expected, Kevin is a very, very strong contender. Surprisingly, Dorian Yates is actually uncharacteristically not amazing in this shot. Normally, I would say that Dorian Yates has one of the best side triceps of all time. His execution is just amazing, whereas Kevin typically doesn't execute this pose to his fullest potential. He sometimes has trouble locking out his arm fully, which definitely takes away from his shot. But this year, the roles have been reversed. Kevin hits this shot to a T, whereas Dorian Yates is uncharacteristically bloated, and it definitely takes away from him in the side tricep shot. His core is not locked in like it normally is. Sean Ray, on the other hand, has too small of a triceps to compare with the likes of Dorian Yates or Kevin Levrone. He is unfortunately once again sidelined to third. Next up is the abs and thighs. Although this photo will tell you one thing, the footage will tell you something else. Now, it doesn't take a genius to know that Sean Ray is obviously going to come in first here. He's famous for his abs and thighs, and this year is no different. His abs, intercostals, lat flare, and even striated quads are just phenomenal. Now, next, it's between Dorian Yates and Kevin Levrone. Dorian Yates is famous for having one of the best abs and thighs shots out of any mass monster. His booming lats, pretty decent abs, and giant quads definitely give him a very good abs and thighs all in total. However, he just cannot match the midsection of Kevin Levrone. Although it doesn't look great in this shot, looking at the footage, we can get a different story. Well, taking a second look back at the footage, Kevin Levrone isn't as good as I remembered in this shot. Although his abs do look great here, they still don't beat Dorian Yates' shot as a total. His quads just cannot compare, and his lat flare is just not nearly as good as Dorian Yates'. I'm gonna have to give Dorian Yates a slight edge in the abs and thighs. Last up, we have the most muscular pose. Now, I do know that the most muscular wasn't actually a mandatory shot during the time of this Olympia, but that doesn't change the fact that it's still an important shot, and most of the competitors, if not all of them, still definitely hit it. You can see in the footage here, Sean Ray, Dorian Yates, and Kevin Levrone all hit the pose. I'm also of the belief that if you're hitting a pose, you definitely want the judges to see it. So if everyone's hitting the same pose, it might as well be a mandatory shot in my opinion. And judging by this photo, if I was Dorian Yates, I personally would not hit the most muscular at all. Standing next to people like Sean Ray or Kevin Levrone, I mean, he's just getting his ass handed to him here. Kevin Levrone smokes him in pretty much every department other than the calves, and the calves are cut out of this picture anyway. His abs are better, his chest is better, his traps are better, his shoulders are better, his arms are better. I mean, there's literally not a single thing that I would give to Dorian in this pose. This is a complete blowout through and through. Adding in Sean Ray here, and yeah. Sean Ray is blowing out Dorian Yates nearly as bad as Kevin is. Don't get me wrong, Kevin is in a whole nother league when it comes to the hands clasped most muscular. Second, in my opinion, only to possibly Phil Heath. Sean Ray still does have a great shot here. He has striated quads, and he has a great chest, great arms, and phenomenal abs. Compared to Dorian Yates, yeah, no competition. This is nearly the biggest blowout of them all. I mean, I know Dorian Yates has a great back, but that does not excuse how badly he's getting blown out here. Here is how I ended with the scoring. I awarded 3 points for a blowout, 2 points for a strong win, and 1 point for a narrow win in all of the poses. The front double biceps was a strong winner for Kevin Levrone. The front lat spread was an equally strong win for Dorian Yates. The side chest was a 2-point win for Kevin Levrone, and the back double biceps and back lat spread were both 1-point wins for Dorian Yates. So far, we're all tied up. However, this is where it starts looking very good for Kevin Levrone. The side triceps is a 2-point shot for him, and the most muscular is a 3-point shot. So despite Dorian Yates winning the abs and thighs with 1 point, Kevin Levrone takes a 4-point victory here against Dorian Yates. This score matches the eye test. Overall, Kevin Levrone was a much more well-rounded competitor at this competition. he wasn't bloated and had no torn bicep. Not only that, despite Dorian Yates having a phenomenal back, Kevin Levrone was somehow able to not match, but keep up with Dorian Yates, and not get completely blown out like Dorian was from the front shots. As for Sean Ray, in my opinion, actually holds up better than Dorian Yates does. He takes a decisive victory in the front double biceps with 2 points, but loses in the front lat spread by 1 point. He loses the side chest by 2 points, but takes back a 1-point victory in the back double biceps, being all tied up now. However, this is where once again Kevin Levrone pulls through. Despite Sean Ray's immaculate shape, he loses when it comes to size. In the back lat spread and side tricep, Kevin Levrone takes 2 decisive victories, and despite Sean Ray taking a 2-point victory in the ab and thigh, Kevin Levrone has a slightly better most muscular and takes a point, winning by 3 points. Overall, this once again matches the eye test. Despite Sean being a great competitor, he was just clearly outsized by Kevin Levrone here. In my opinion, Kevin Levrone should have won this contest, with Sean Ray coming in second and Dorian Yates in third. However, this is just my opinion looking back at the footage and images. I was not there in person, and it's hard for me to decisively say that Kevin Levrone was completely robbed here. All in all, it's impossible for us to really know who truly should have won this contest without being there in person. Even though Dorian Yates was often bloated. Often bloated for Dorian Yates is more like peak of someone's condition for another competitor. I will say though, being a huge Kevin Levrone fan, I am glad to note that in my opinion, Kevin Levrone did actually have the best physique during a Mr. Olympia competition, and his title of uncrowned Mr. Olympia isn't completely unjustified.